Welcome to the Built to Win webcast. We are excited that you are joining us. We have a new look in our new studio, but we are going to cover a lot, and 40 Days for Life is definitely built to win in a post-Roe America, as we just wrapped up the largest spring 40 Days for Life campaign ever. Happy Easter to all of you. But tonight we will cover Planned Parenthood. We will cover some of the global results that we're seeing with 40 Days for Life in regards to abortion facilities that have closed, abortion workers who have had a conversion, and of course, Save Babies. You will hear from a number of people. You will hear from Dr. Haywood Robinson, former abortion provider. You will hear from Ramona Trevino, former Planned Parenthood director. We are going to cover it all. We have a lot, and we are glad that you are joining us. There is a lot to be excited about, and there are definitely challenges to be met as we continue to work to end abortion in a post-Roe America. And joining me on this Built to Win Built to Win webcast in our new studio is somebody who has always been built to win and now has the amazing beard to go with it. Congratulations, you look fantastic.
The studio is not the only thing getting a renovation here.
Everybody is getting an update and a makeover and an improvement. And the beard, what caused this? We have to cover this quickly before we move on to the opening prayer.
Got lazy about shaving for a couple of days, and my wife said, "Oh, I think I like that."
I think I like it. Excellent.
The
Wonderful.
thing that motivates men to do anything in life.
That's right. Your wife likes it. That's why I have a beard, and that's why I do most of what I do is to please Mary Lisa. So with that, we got a lot to cover. We got some exciting stuff we're going to share. Why don't you open us up in prayer?
Sure. Heavenly Father, you are the creator of life, and we thank you for calling us to this mission field, and we thank you in a particular way for all of the babies who have been saved from abortion as a result of this mission. We thank you for the workers who have left, for the numerous abortion facilities that have closed, and we ask that you continue to bless us with fruits and with volunteers, laborers in the vineyard, and that all of this may result in your glory and the protection of innocent life everywhere. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And happy Easter to everybody as we continue to go through the Easter season. Right off the bat, we got to address, I'm going to get into this with Ramona later on, but the biggest news, I think, in the history of 40 Days for Life, maybe up there with the conversion of Abby Johnson, because that was so well known at the time. But the closure of the flagship Planned Parenthood abortion facility in Manhattan, 13 years of 40 Days for Life campaigns outside. And one of the things we say that, and it's praise God, and everybody says praise God, and praise God indeed. We're gonna hear from Lori, our leader in Manhattan tonight. She's fantastic. Can't wait for y'all to hear that interview. But this was something where the writing is on the wall for some of these other Planned Parenthoods. I would have never imagined that Planned Parenthood would close.
If you had said every abortion facility in America but one will close, I think everybody looks at Manhattan as that's probably the one. And yet it is closing. It's not isolated. We've had closures throughout New York State, some of them in the New York City area. We had one of the oldest and largest facilities in the Bronx go out of business. The existing facilities that remain, the local 40 Days for Life leaders say that the client traffic is not increasing. If anything, it's decreasing. And then we saw closures in Illinois, in Michigan, which Michigan is a swing state, but they've got very liberal abortion law. We saw a closure then in Vermont. And so we really thought, at least I thought, that this year, 2025, would be the year where we saw the red state Planned Parenthoods go out of business. Help was not on the way from the federal government. Kamala Harris lost in her bid to center the entire federal government around abortion. Okay, so we'll see Alabama and Idaho, and some of those places are closing. But where we see the entire abortion industry and its sympathetic politicians say, oh, we're going to have women flocking to our states to be abortion sanctuaries, to have abortions. We're seeing the bluest of the blue states on the map, including in Manhattan. It is beyond anything I think that we were expecting, and certainly shows that God is at the helm here. And obviously, if this can happen in Manhattan, it can certainly happen where you live.
Definitely shows the overhype of the travel. Women will get on planes, trains, automobiles. They will crawl. The airports are going to be packed. They will be clamoring to these blue states. And some travel, most didn't. We see the birth rates in the pro-life states going up. It's amazing how the overturning of Roe made people question abortion as a good. Here's the thing, and we don't need to harp on this because it's a little Monday morning quarterback, and now that this is this huge victory in Manhattan, but we dealt with a lot of garbage at that location, as people could imagine. We had, tons of protesters. We had harassment. We had the vulgarity stuff that comes. And I just want to highlight two groups of people because this is a location where the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal, who are street preachers in the Bronx and in the poorest areas of New York, they would go into Manhattan and pray at this location, the Friars would, and then the Sisters of Life, who we love. And they have gone out every single week to pray. One of the New York bishops accompanied them. They would go out and pray. We're not going to get into details. This is a family event. But you can imagine some of the things that were said to the sisters when they would go out and pray. None of it matters.
None of it matters.
They were faithful. They trusted God in that place. For sale for $39 million. Now, these pro-abortion groups are mad at Planned Parenthood for selling it. And this wasn't like out of nowhere. One of the things that we noticed was, I guess, and Lori will touch on this, but what about 10 months ago, they stopped doing late-term abortions because New York is insane. They allow abortions through all 40 weeks. Governor Cuomo implemented that. And so you would see visibly pregnant women going in to have an abortion. They stopped doing that. And they were just doing them up to 20 weeks.
And they've been closed off and on. We see outside of New York, Goshen, that facility has been closed since 2024. It's still officially temporary, but I think we'll be adding it to the list, hopefully sooner rather than later. And in addition to all these permanent closures, there are facilities all over the place, multiple in Colorado, Ann Arbor, Michigan. One of the sort of sub-themes of this campaign was abortion facilities closed, maybe not permanently yet, but for extended months-long periods of time.
Yeah, it's really, really unbelievable. And talk about some of the trends that you see also with just, we talk about the workers and we talk about these closures, including this one, the closed Planned Parenthood in Texas, where 40 Days for Life first began outside. But one of the numbers I want to highlight, I'll spring this on you, I think the abortion-free cities, where they had one abortion facility, it closed, and there's no abortion. There are abortion-free cities. Are we up to 77?
We're now at 80.
80, okay.
80. I mean, I don't blame you for not knowing, because by the time we hit the end of this webcast, maybe there'll be 81, right?
But that's a cool stat.
It is. And we see before the campaign, as the campaign was beginning, we saw the New York Times article that just highlighted the devastation and the desperation in the abortion industry and the dissatisfaction among the workers. And that is something that we saw play out on the streets. We know of, at this point, 4 workers who had conversions and left their jobs in response to this 40 Days for Life campaign. We know of several others where they didn't confirm why, but they're gone, and we know that they're gone. And the workers are upset, and we start to see a little more interaction than we're used to. We've got an email here from Trish at Planned Parenthood.
Oh, and Trish works at Planned Parenthood.
I'm a proud volunteer, patient greeter with Planned Parenthood. I think we would call those escorts, right?
Escorts.
Your protesters were out in front of the clinic where I volunteer, and although they were non-confrontational, I do have to tell you, I mentally oppose your organization and what you stand for.
I mentally oppose.
I just like that.
Has anybody ever heard that phrase before? I mentally oppose you.
Something about the peaceful prayer and witness got under Trish's skin enough that she was going to vow that she... And I love here that she says, although you are non-confrontational.
Yeah.
That's right. We are what we say we are.
That's right.
You get the media reports, oh, they're out there intimidating. No, you're non-confrontational, but I mentally oppose you.
The viewers, which you should definitely watch this webcast, if nothing else for Steve's beard, we get emails from Planned Parenthood a lot. They're not always as nice as
a lot of them this time, more than ever.
Yeah, we got a lot. We had the lady make the donation on day 1 in my honor to Planned Parenthood. But yeah, it's kind of funny. This is kind of polite.
Yes.
I mean, it's just kind of like I mentally oppose you. The funny thing about this email is we don't get a whole lot from the escorts. But she took the time and all of that, so that was very, very nice. Speaking of escorts or just conversion, we had a number of workers leave, and we predicted that this number would go up in post-Roe America because there has not been a more miserable time to work at Planned Parenthood or work in an abortion facility than it is right now. You had, already there was a lot of chaos at Planned Parenthood with their current CEO is incompetent. I say that respectively, but she's not what they've had in the past. She's not a good leader. And they've had that. They've already been very top heavy. Now you factor in the overturning of Roe versus Wade, all these, pro-life laws, 26 states, passing pro-life laws as opposed to 7 passing pro-abortion laws with the fall of Roe. Then you add in the re-election of Trump and now the possibility and likelihood. We've been working a lot behind the scenes on the defunding of Planned Parenthood. So it's bad time right now at Planned Parenthood. And if it's already a controversial job, that can just kind of tip you over and be like, you know what, I'm having a change of heart. We have a lot of workers who just leave, but we don't count them. But the people that are already on the verge, maybe their conscience is bothering them, it doesn't help when everything's going down the toilet.
And the frustration factor, our current reigning leader of the year, Kathy in Columbia, Missouri. So Missouri, this is a dark spot in November. They voted to put a constitutional amendment that keeps abortion legal after years of being abortion-free in Missouri. And so they resume abortions. It's a big deal. There's court cases. Everything is leading up to this. And Kathy emails to say that one of the first days that abortions were scheduled, not one woman went through with the abortion, and the out-of-town, out-of-state abortionists came all the way to Columbia only to go back home without doing any work.
That's unbelievable.
That's one of those things where, conversion or not, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, how invested am I really in continuing to go and drive hours to not do any abortions?
Yeah, and before we wrap up, I want to say, it just gives clarity in a post-Roe America. That's why this is the Built to Win webcast, because some people have said they're confused in a post-Roe world, or they've lost focus, or they don't know. 40 Days for Life ain't on that list. Yeah. We have more clarity, vision, and demand for 40 Days for Life than we've ever had before. Frankly, we didn't think that would be the case. We thought we would lose some cities for the best reason, which is their abortion facility closes, and then, which is good, right? We want 0 cities, but that hasn't been the case. We've added cities in front of abortion facilities we didn't previously have a 40 Days for Life because of the momentum of the overturning of Roe. So the clarity of our mission, the focus of our mission, and the demand of our mission is at an all-time high, and that's so important because we were talking about trusting God in the car ride earlier, and this is where we trust God, and it is divine intervention of the timing of Roe and the fact that, we had a post-Roe plan, we've implemented it, but we really didn't know, and I've thanked, obviously, volunteers, I've thanked donors, so many people put 40 Days for Life in position to be built for success in post-Roe America, and praise God for that. Because not everybody is like that, but we are, because we're rooted in the grassroots where abortion now is that's where the battleground is.
And I think it's worth noting that this post-Roe plan running ahead of schedule. This was a year where I think maybe we looked at expecting to see more of the old Planned Parenthoods closing in Texas, and the Lord decided, let's just skip ahead and get to Manhattan.
Yeah, I know. And as we wrap up this part, we need to put some of those pictures. Jill will put those up of the Manhattan campaign, because it's just surreal. And I don't know if you've been to New York, it's how the neighborhoods are, and you're just right there on the street. So when I heard that it was closing, I was like, as Steve said, this is the last place I thought they would ever close. Even if abortion was totally illegal in America, they'd keep this open as some museum of reproductive rights or something. They didn't do it. It closed. And when I thought about it, it makes sense, actually. It makes sense, because 40 Days for Life, it has access to women and giving them one last option to turn away. And the Manhattan Planned Parenthood was built for that, right there on the street, everybody has to walk past us. And no wonder they saved so many babies. And no wonder they didn't allow the hostility and the persecution to impact their effect. They put their heads down, they prayed, and they offered alternatives. And to God be the glory for that tremendous, tremendous victory. You are going to hear from Lori, our wonderful leader in Manhattan, who led the charge to close this flagship Planned Parenthood in Manhattan. Steve had a chance to sit down with her and interview her, and you are going to enjoy somebody who is extremely grateful to God for what he has done through her 40 Days for Life campaign.
Well, we are joined now by Lori, who is the leader of two different 40 Days for Life and 40 Days for Life 365 campaigns in Manhattan. And this campaign, Lori broke to us what is the news of the spring campaign, maybe the news of the decade for 40 Days for Life, that the Planned Parenthood abortion facility in Manhattan has announced plans to go out of business. So, Lori, congratulations, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's an absolute privilege and an honor to be here with you today with this great news.
This is the moment when you find out your local abortion facility is closing that every 40 Days for Life leader dreams of when they sign up to lead a campaign. And what did it feel like?
It's one of the best days of my life because it's a miracle in Manhattan that we prayed for, and we did it. We did it, Steve. With God's grace, we did it. All of us who stood there on the sidewalk for days, for years, it was a miracle. And it's all down to God's grace. And all the glory, honor, and praise goes to God. And we are just humble witnesses observing his miraculous power that he can do things. All we have to do is pray, trust, and keep showing up. And these miracles can happen.
Now, the Planned Parenthood in Manhattan had been in disarray for some time. What did you notice from your vantage point out on that street corner?
Well, what happened last summer is that, Steve, that they stopped doing the later term abortions. So over 20 weeks. In former years, you could be there and you would see a woman very heavily pregnant, especially since 2019, when Governor Cuomo passed the law on January 22nd, 2019, that abortion would be allowed and legal up until the moment of birth. And it seems like just in general, there's just less foot traffic. And now, since January, with no abortions apart from the abortion pill, it's just changed. It's just changed. Another thing happened in 2020 when they decided to change the name of this Planned Parenthood location on July 21st, 2020. They decided that they would no longer call this facility at 26 Bleecker Street the Margaret Sanger Health Center. They would change the name to the Manhattan Health Center, but they cannot eradicate their past. They cannot eradicate the fact that they have killed probably over 100,000 babies at that location.
Did you see any signs that this was coming? And when I ask that, I think about if you were to ask me in my earthly human, very fallible wisdom, every abortion facility in America will close except for one. What's the one that would stay open? I would have said, well, probably the Margaret Sanger Planned Parenthood in Manhattan. But God obviously has bigger plans than I do. Did you see this coming?
I mean, I know that our very good friend Pearl, who closed down an abortion facility in the Bronx, she was praying there in February, and she said that she felt that it was about to close. And I can believe that she felt that. And I can say that honestly, at this point, I do feel like there will be a collapse of Planned Parenthood across the country.
Well, Lori, a moment ago you mentioned that the Bronx abortion facility had closed, one of the oldest abortion facilities in New York City. And then we see the carnage to the abortion industry go beyond that. 4 Planned Parenthood locations closed just last year. We see the Planned Parenthood not too terribly far out of New York City. And Goshen has been closed until further notice for months upon months, the entire year so far, plus much of 2024. What is the pro-life vibe in New York City right now?
Everyone's extremely joyful in New York City about the closing of Planned Parenthood. It is such a victory in Manhattan that I think everyone who's pro-life will never forget They will never forget that this happened and they witnessed this miracle. It has been absolutely incredible.
You lead two 40 Days for Life vigils. The other one is at a facility known as Park Med. And that facility for a couple of years has been reported to be on the brink. Is that right?
Well, it has been on the brink because actually what happened is that Planned Parenthood 26 Bleecker Street, really they stole or they took the abortionist from Park Med who was under contract. And so there was a legal battle that went on between these two abortion facilities in Manhattan, which caused Park Med to have to fly in an abortion doctor from Buffalo from another 40 Days for Life vigil run by Dolly. And so this was 2 years ago this happened. And so this woman comes in once a week to do abortions at Park Med. And the horrific thing about Park Med NYC is that they capture a lot of women from all around New York City because they are on the listing as the top abortion facility. If you Google abortion near me, if you're in any of the 5 boroughs or even the suburbs of New York, that is the one that comes up.
I think our viewers' jaws must be hitting the ground right now to hear that New York abortion facilities are fighting for each other over an abortionist because otherwise they have to fly somebody in from out of town to do abortions. This is New York City. There's no real stigma on abortion in New York City. How can they not find enough doctors willing to perform abortions to be able to run a functioning business? That seems kind of wild to me.
You know, that was a shock when we discovered that was happening and that there was infighting between different abortion facilities. But you see, that's all part of God's great plan, because when you're conducting an evil business where you're killing tiny children who don't get a chance to be born, it's a corrupt industry from the beginning. One of the things, you have to be very patient in this particular ministry. You have to be in it for the long haul. And that's why I'm so grateful to 40 Days for Life and to the Archdiocese of New York, because we are all in it for the long haul.
Sometimes people will say things to me like, well, 40 Days for Life might work in Texas where it started, or it might work in Alabama, or it might work in the Bible Belt or a red state, but it can't work where I live. It's too progressive here. What message does this victory send to the rest of America and to the rest of the world?
If in New York, a Planned Parenthood can close down thanks to prayers, that can happen anywhere in the world. This is why this is such a great miracle, because it's not just a miracle for New York City. And I really believe this is a miracle beyond just the Planned Parenthood closing down. I think it's a sign of God's grace and God's goodness coming back to New York City. Don't give up hope and persevere. You got 40 Days for Life backing you. You got great experts and people to advise you how to do this ministry. And it's the most joyful ministry in the world. You're helping babies to come into the world by your prayers, and you're helping to eradicate evil from our world and from our planet. So what better ministry to be involved in? And it's a grace for any of us that are involved in this ministry. What a grace to be involved in it, and what a blessing and an honor and a privilege.
Well, thank you, Lori. It is a privilege to have you as a 40 Days for Life leader, and I know you stand on the shoulders of giants. Congratulations to you and all of the pro-lifers in New York. Just tremendous work. Keep the faith. Continue to fight the fight, and hopefully we'll have a second location to celebrate as that Park Med facility in New York City closes. But God bless you. Thank you for your leadership, and keep up the great work.
And I'm now joined by General Counsel for 40 Days for Life and the head of the Institute of Law and Justice. As we've talked about before, we expanded the legal arm of 40 Days for Life out of necessity, and that has proven to be a great move as we plow through post-Roe America. Matt, good to see you as always. Welcome back to Texas.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's hot.
It is hot. It's April. It's summertime.
Yeah.
Already. So there's a lot going on legally. I want to get to the DOJ case because we teased that earlier about the update on Mark Houck and where our lawsuit against the DOJ for their raid against his family, where we are on that. But if you could give like a broad overview, because we've done a lot just in the last couple of months, and we've gone on offense.
We have, and we're coming up in August for our second year of the Institute of Law and Justice.
Hard to believe.
That's not like some outside law firm. That's not like some law firm that we started. That is 40 Days for Life. Like the Institute of Law and Justice are the lawyers for 40 Days for Life. And I was the only one for a long time, and of course wasn't able to, even though I'm a litigator by trade and training, I couldn't, all the cases that we had come in. So many great partners across the country helped us out, pro bono, pro-life law firms, but we overwhelmed them, frankly.
Yeah.
And as great as they are, they're not on the street with us, but I am, and other lawyers are, and so thanks to, I think it was our idea jointly, and then you accelerated it as you always do everything, and said, when can we do it? Why don't we have it? And I was like, we had a 12-month.
We talked about this last week.
That's right. But praise be to God, we did get that, and we brought in lawyers from the DOJ. Elected prosecutors like myself, county attorneys, big law lawyers in hostile states like on the left coast, a doctor, a medical doctor who's also a lawyer, international lawyers, and we're blessed to have this team that not only keeps us safe and protects when Planned Parenthood wants to steal our logo and say 40 days of lies or 40 days of hate, protecting those things on a more administrative level, but also the people out on the street. So when we are unlawfully denied a permit, like everybody else gets a permit, well, no, not everybody else. Depends what they're saying, but that's illegal. Not today.
Right.
So, or that's our property. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but we're going to find out. We know what boundary lines are. We know, or you trespassed and we get arrested, or they can rip up our signs and throw them in the street. But if we reach out and grab a sign back, we get charged with attempted murder.
And my frustration with this is, the ACLU said 40 Days for Life is the most effective and the greatest threat to choice. And really the only way they can get rid of 40 Days for Life is if they get rid of free speech. And that was the impetus of all this, is the constant harassment of just getting rid of a 40 Days for Life campaign by attacking free speech. We see the lunacy that's going on in England, and I think y'all have helped prevent that here.
Well, we've been directly involved in that. In fact, I just got off with our great leader, one of the great leaders in Ireland, about exactly the new buffer zone there and what they can and can't do. And I mean, they live or die by the way they draft these laws,
Yeah, and thought crimes.
Yeah, they better make sure, because if there's a loophole in these hate crimes, these hate laws, I call them, they call us hate crimes, I call their laws hate laws. You can't think now. Isabel can't think. Adam can't think. Sean can't think. I mean, so we have these, and you're exactly right. And ultimately, what we're protecting is life. But the reason we have the First Amendment is to protect life. If we weren't alive, no one would be there to talk. So all of the amendments, the Constitution was passed with no individual, and then we passed the first 12 amendments, 10 of them were agreed on, and that's called the Bill of Rights. Those are the individual rights that we have, but they're only there to protect life. Right? You don't have a right to bear arms if there are no people. You don't have a right not for the cops to kick your door down under the Fourth Amendment without a warrant if you don't have people to issue warrants, kick your door down, houses to live in, right? So they're all there to protect life. So that's what we're doing. But mainly, as you point out, we're doing it through the First Amendment and the right to peacefully assemble, peacefully pray. All of this is in the right to assemble, the right to pray, the right of freedom of religion, we call it, and the right to talk and hand things out, freedom of speech. All of this has been settled.
And the confidence that it's given our volunteers of just having the Institute of Law and Justice, y'all having our backs legally, and then you tie into that the re-election of Trump, which I think gave a lot of sigh of relief with some of the free speech stuff. We still have our battles for sure.
We're getting 250 requests for legal assistance a year. That's from a third of the campaigns.
Right.
Every year. And we're able to manage it with the 5 lawyers.
Right.
I mean, not everyone's a legal case and stuff, but we have gone to court.
Yeah,
and won.
And I keep saying I'm bragging on y'all because we're undefeated, and you're like, that's not going to last forever.
No, I mean,
but we are. We're winning.
Show me a lawyer who's never lost, and I'll show you a lawyer who's never tried a hard case, and they'll come along. But that's not it. It doesn't matter. We're called to be faithful and never despair, never to get anxious. Put on the armor of God and walk into the. Twain said, "You buy bullets by the box, but I buy ink by the barrel." The pen is the pen is mightier than the sword is the But anyway, so we have that, Sean, but we're protecting the people on the street. I call that like tip of the spear. Like they said I trespassed. They said won't give me a permit. They said we're harassing them. They keep driving by and flipping us off or filming us. Is that legal? Well, yes, they have a First Amendment right too. We get a lot of but we also have administrative cases, and a lot of them. And what I mean by that is, I think Donald Trump has more than any other person, not president, in the United States of America since the the Federalist Papers, who warned of this, has shown that the enemy is not at the gates. The enemy is not amongst us. They've been ruling us for some time. We are run by bureaucrats, by unelected bureaucrats, and those are called regulations, not passed by Congress, not overseen by Congress. They're not laws. They're the regulations, and they have to be legal, and the laws have to be constitutional. And we have done that for you. You have helped pen. We have helped you pen letters and sign some of them too. IRS complaints against Planned Parenthood in Missouri when they went to the DNC, and IRS complaint in Sarasota when they hosted a telebank calling in for the Waltz Harris campaign.
It was great because in Sarasota, our folks are out there all the time, and so they just witnessed it. That Planned Parenthood was using their abortion facility to aid Harris and Waltz and host events for Harris and Waltz. Clear violation. You can do whatever you want. You can't do it if you're a 501c3, as we know. And they were campaigning. They were offering free abortions at the DNC. They didn't do that at the RNC.
Tens of millions of dollars in federal funding, and they don't pay taxes. And that's the thing. The
IRS complaints.
Look, it's legal. It's legal, they say. And look, if they go to 40daysforlife/institute/resources, and I think we can put up a few of these, you can see these letters. I mean, we're sending these out and we're getting responses. We've done it on the Pregnancy Workers Fairness Act that was passed by Congress. Great, to protect pregnant workers, women who were pregnant. And then the Biden administration weaponized that to pay for women who were pregnant to cross state lines to get abortions if necessary and take off time. And the same thing with the Pump Act for lactating women who have had babies meant to protect them, and now you have all sorts of abominations, which I won't get into. And I
would throw in there too that's a good litany. What's going on in California, where they're trying to ban abortion pill reversal. Ironically, it was started in San Diego by Dr. Delgado, who's a saint. And now this is not a witchcraft. It's progesterone. It's very natural. If you take the first pill, there is time to save the baby. The success rate is now in the 60s. I've met 60%. I've met some of these children who have been saved through abortion pill reversal, and Newsom and his lunatic AG want to ban us even holding signs that say, "Ask me about abortion pill reversal."
Because they say it's a lie and it doesn't work, and we could line up. I mean, when the truth.
And the AG is like, I don't think that's medically effective.
But it makes sense, right? Because our Lord didn't just say, "For he is a liar, he is the prince of lies." He said he is a murderer and a liar. So if they can lie about murder, all the better, and they'll never stop. And that's a great point, because we're doing a memo on APR, abortion pill reversal. Sometimes I like to call it abortion pill rescue. And it is effective and it does work. And there are no studies on it that are pure, because they won't let us do it. They won't let us prescribe it.
And women are seeking that out. I mean, I know the whole choice thing's a joke, but it's another example of we're not forcing this.
No, if you need progesterone to clear up your skin, or because you're having heavy cycles or whatever, then you ask for it and you get it. But if you need progesterone because you took the first abortion pill, California and New York are going to sue you.
Yep.
At least they're going to sue the person who gave it to you, even if they're a medical doctor licensed to practice medicine in all of its forms. And that's another administrative way. We're protecting doctors with licenses. Look, we're blessed at 40 Days for Life to have pro-life OBGYN female, Dr. Monique Ruberu on our board, Dr. Donato Barillo, who I told you about, on ILJ, and Dr. Haywood Robinson, a former abortionist. Mm-hmm. And they've all prescribed these medicines, and they work. Right, they work. And also there are kids that we've met where a woman said, "I took the first abortion pill, I changed my mind, I took APR, and this is my kid." And they're like, "No, it doesn't work. That's not your kid. You're not a person. You're not a woman. There are no women. There are no men. We don't care what you say. You're lying. We're not lying. It doesn't work." Yeah. It's like, but progesterone's prescribed in 37 other things, and you let me do it. And they're like, just stop talking. It doesn't work. I'm the attorney general. I'm the governor. I am my own God, and you should listen to me. And that's really what's happening. But thanks be to God, I trust the system. I like getting in front of juries. Most judges are like, yeah, I see what your point, but he's actually got some case law. And generally, when these lights shine, sunshine is the best disinfectant. I love a court of record. I love a court of record because they can take them to task. And you asked, so those are the three areas: the tip of the spear, the administrative stuff. That I think has been effective, and surely you've talked about a lot, both on news channels as well.
But it's no one was doing this. Planned Parenthood could just do. Cecile Richards spoke at Obama's DNC in 2012. She's the CEO of Planned Parenthood, and she spoke.
People
at the
were
DNC.
Pointing it out, Sean, but that was it.
Yeah.
But that was it, and we're going to take it further. And y'all who have donated, and you and the board. Have allowed that to happen. And also, we are looking, praise be to God, Roe v. Wade got overturned through the power of God, but through the courts. and that will happen to the major issues. We will stop. We have just started to end abortion pills by mail.
Yeah.
Completely illegal. The only reason they are able to do it is because Biden sent a letter he knew it was illegal. He just said, I'm not gonna prosecute you for it. Ending abortion pills at all, which was authorized in violation of the law, but it's behind closed doors. Sure, who's going to sit through all those hearings and everything? And they ignored a bunch of stuff. And we know what we're doing, and we'll get there. Buffer zones. These are the three big issues that we're really looking at. I mean, there are larger issues like constitutional amendments and personhood and things, but as the legal things, and we will end buffer zones, and we will end it from a Colorado case, which in 1999, 2000, Colorado v. Hill gave an 8-foot buffer zone around a woman, whatever 8 feet is, within 100 foot of an abortion. And we will get that case, and we will take it to the Supreme Court, and we will overturn it. But you mentioned something about judges and going to court, and or I followed up on your question with that. And Mark Houck's case also.
Yeah, the DOJ. So recently, we put out basically, obviously good news for the DOJ in theory that Trump won. So the DOJ, y'all were in negotiations with them to right the wrong. This has been a big Kash Patel, Pam Bondi. Trump ran on ending the weaponization of
and a lot
the
of those
DOJ.
guys mentioned the paramilitary raid, dawn raid on Mark's house.
100%. Mark Houck, all last fall was mentioned.
So in the last administration, didn't even respond to our notice of claim for 6 months, didn't respond to our lawsuit, and then just did what lawyers do, sent out the trial dogs, which I'm not against.
Right.
When it's on the right side, and said, get rid of this case.
Yeah.
And then Trump was elected.
So Trump gets elected. They come to the table. You're in negotiations. They're going to right the wrong for Mark and his family.
That's what they said.
And we get an activist judge who throws the case out during a stay. So this is what
They suggested that we stay the case while we negotiate settlement.
And you said that's common. The
Every
judge is like,
single
go figure
court
this
that
out.
I've ever been in, they start out by saying, whoever the litigants are, you can send your lawyers' kids to college or you can send your own. I suggest you go out in the hallway. They even have mandatory mediation, mandatory settlement conferences. None of the lawyers involved in this case, from Philadelphia to Missouri to Texas, none of them, including me, have ever heard of a judge denying all parties agreeing, can you just put this case on hold? Usually because, number one, they don't want to do the work. Why? And why would you? Why would you write up a big brief and issue an opinion? Number two, they want to have the parties settle out of court. Why do they want that? There's no appeal. If you and I settle, if we get into a car wreck and you sue me and say you hit me from behind, I talk to my lawyer and he's like, you did hit him from behind, you're probably going to lose. I'll go, okay, here's a reasonable settlement. That's it. You can't appeal. That's in the documents. You waive your right to appeal. So what happened? This judge ignores the joint motion by the government of the United States and the Houcks to just put it on pause while we finish negotiation. He rules and dismisses the entire case.
So now we've appealed.
So now he ensured an appeal, and it's going to get kicked back to him. Nobody knows the power of appeal better than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to appeal everything.
I know.
There's 3 million immigration cases. Think about it. These people can't get through to immigration for years, and some guy gets deported, and 2 days later there's an order. Like, why did they jump over all the other? What about the poor guy who's had a case for a
And
year?
I know we're involved. You know, you're leading your lead counsel on the DOJ case. But just as an American, and for those watching this, it's so frustrating to see. You know, Trump gets elected, he wins the popular vote, weaponization of the DOJ is a huge priority. He gets in there, and this is why I love what Elon's doing, and I'm a small government guy, and I love all that. The DOJ, to me, is I'll believe it when I see it. It's 115,000 people. Pam, Bondi and Kash Patel are 2 people. I think they're doing a great job, but it just shows, like, they're trying to reform it. The Houks are the poster child of the weaponization of the DOJ. And I mean, the FBI guy said we're literally taking him with or without a warrant. The whole thing was shameful, what he went through. And they're going to try to right the wrong, and the judge throws it out. And you're like, this is why the deep state and the swamp, those aren't like political phrases. We've kind of seen this firsthand with the Houck case, that it's just so many layers of garbage.
The judge decided that he saw that the DOJ was no longer our enemy, so he would be.
Yeah. So I don't.
I'm not vilifying the particular judge.
And we're not giving his address out, but yeah.
No, I'm saying that is the action that the court took, and no one else has ever heard of it. Maybe he's done it 1,000 times. Maybe we've never heard of him. Maybe the 19 lawyers involved in this case just don't know what we're talking about. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying what happened in this case has never been heard of by the 10 lawyers involved, and it was requested by the Department of Justice of the United States of America. And the judge said, no, I'm not even going to hear it.
Does that make the appeal stronger that he threw it out during his stay, or is it irrelevant?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that the parties wanted to settle gives any party any more legal mojo than another. There is a case called a mandamus case, which orders a court to do something, but the judge didn't violate the law in doing that. It's just the purpose. 90-some% of criminal cases settle, and 95% of civil cases over a certain amount of money settle. They just couldn't. The volume of cases would overwhelm. I mean, the court is full of trials, and that's less than 10% of all filed cases. So most judges want you to settle things for the reason I said. First of all, you either go away equally happy or equally unhappy, but then you don't appeal. What you get out of it is you get out of it.
Right.
There's no appeal. There's no tomorrow. The guy hit you. You got hurt. He paid you the money. Move on.
Before we move on from this, the craziest thing about this was the judge said that the FBI did nothing wrong. Well, and that just further enables them. How can you reform anything if now the judges are going to back up the FBI kicking down your door, and after you offer to turn yourself in all of this, the guy's acquitted in an hour, and you come back and say, no, the FBI handled everything perfectly.
And those are paraphrases. Those sentences don't exist in the actual opinion, but those are reasonable conclusions. You can read the opinion. It's a public opinion.
If you're bad and you're at the FBI, you would read it and go, I can do whatever I want.
No, I know it. I know that's what Scalia and Thomas and Oliver Wendell Holmes were always saying. But it's what's not written. It's the effect of the case. We have to look, and that's public policy. And doing that in the face of a settlement where one party is acknowledging that we would like to resolve this, we did wrong, and then for the opinion to come out, which is how everybody will read it, so they didn't do anything wrong, when Mark said, and his lawyer, we'll drive down there and no crimes of violence, no crimes at all, doesn't own a gun, we'll drive down there. They got lost in his neighborhood. Mark had to give them directions, but he knew how to we'll turn you in, but no, instead, let's ignore them, ignore their calls, ignore their emails, and send 20 men and women with fully automatic weapons, handguns, and vests at the dawn when his wife's walking down in their pajamas with the kids and dad's making pancakes, so that he gets released without even having to put up a bond and then acquitted in a single hour. And you can read it and make your own decision about what that meant. But for sure, one would think, how do you know that if you didn't have a trial? I mean, remember, he dismissed it didn't even want to hear it, didn't even let us get the deposition. It was so woefully inadequate that obviously they can go arrest this guy. And they made him look like Hitler. I mean, that's what they always call us, right? And they made him look like the worst guy in the world. No reasonable person would do it any other way, except for the fact that we've talked to the U.S. attorneys. We've talked to the assistant U.S. attorneys. Some of the lawyers on the case have been U.S. attorneys. I was an elected prosecutor. None of us have ever heard of refusing to allow a defendant to be peacefully turned in. It doesn't put anybody in danger, and it saves all that time and money so that the SWAT team can go out and get the real bad guys.
Yeah, and all of this boils down to, we're obviously going to keep you up to date on the Houck case. They'll be coming out a lot on this, but now we're at the beginning of the appeal process. Definitely thankful for the ILJ. And most importantly, as Matt mentioned, the tip of the spear, the men on the street, you watching this, you're protected, and we have seen harassment from the DOJ drop. We've seen harassment from law enforcement drop, and it helps to have legal protection and protection of with lawyers who are former prosecutors and former DOJ attorneys. So it definitely helps. Know that we have your back. This is to protect our mission, because nobody's doing what 40 Days for Life is doing in hundreds of cities across America during a time when this has gone back to the local level, which is the strength for 40 Days for Life. It's definitely one of the reasons we're built for success in a post-Roe America, and we need to protect our freedom so that we can save as many babies as possible. Earlier in the webcast, Steve and I mentioned some of the workers having a conversion, leaving their job. We are going to talk about that for this recent spring campaign with a former Planned Parenthood worker, former Planned Parenthood manager, Ramona Trevino. How are you?
I'm great.
Wonderful. So we had some workers quit.
We did.
Now, there's two categories. There's, I hate these lunatics outside, I hate my job, I'm quitting. Then there's, I had a change of heart on abortion and I'm quitting.
Yeah. So we had 4 workers that had a conversion this campaign who left, and 2 of them being in California, which is huge.
Awesome.
1 in New York, and then the other, I think, was in North Carolina. And then we had 3 who quit their job, did not have a conversion, but they did leave. So that's telling, because as we know, there's a lot of turnover in Planned Parenthood. And so that's not something that has stopped or gone away since I quit. Obviously, it's an ongoing thing, an ongoing problem.
I want to ask you, as a former Planned Parenthood worker, let's act like you work there now, okay? And you're just nice enough to come on our webcast and not throw anything at me. If you go through it's like a litany of garbage, okay? You have the overturning of Roe, you have the retirement and then passing of Cecile Richards, their longtime CEO, who unfortunately was a very effective CEO. Alexis McGill Johnson is not very...
Not so much.
Not so much. We'll say that lovingly. But they overturned Roe. Now defunding is on the table. Trump is back, he's like the devil incarnate to them. Is this the lowest morale inside? Like, what would you be feeling if you worked there now?
I think it's kind of hard to say. I think definitely the lowest morale. I think obviously if I was still there, I would loathe Trump with all my heart and soul, right? But yeah, I think there's probably some low morale. But again, I think it goes back to it's just an ongoing problem. It's not a good place to work, and the turnover is just always going to be an ongoing issue for Planned Parenthood.
What would defunding do to them?
It'll be devastating for Planned Parenthood. You know, they rely and depend a lot on that funding, and I think we'll definitely see a lot more closures, and people will probably continue to walk. I mean, I think we'll see more employees just say, I think I better find something else before I end up without a job.
We talked about this on the Defunding Planned Parenthood webcast, and you can sign the petition at defundplannedparenthood.com, defundplannedparenthood.com. We still keep getting signatures, so we're going to present it when the signatures stop coming in, but they keep coming in. The local clinics didn't see that government money, the $700 million. Is that right? That all went to corporate, and they pushed it into politics.
Yes.
It's kind of a scam.
Yes.
They're taking government money to elect Democrats, essentially.
Yeah.
But I think, so that's going to be...
Because I was not paid well.
Okay, well...
So we weren't seeing it.
Well, but that was across the board, that they're...
I know.
For what they're responsible for, the Planned Parenthood workers are underpaid, which is always odd to me because they do get donations, they make money off of abortions, and they get these tax dollars, which I guess that never hit in the grassroots. But it was always odd to me Because they're working at a controversial place. And if you could just go and work at a normal doctor's office
Right.
and be an office manager there and not have to deal with protesters and media stories and all this stuff. So it never made any sense to me. Do you think if they are defunded, we're going to see them dump more real estate? I mean, if this Manhattan place is closing, that's for sale for $39 million.
Isn't that exciting?
It's shocking.
It's amazing.
It's awesome. I mean, I didn't believe it. I thought it was one of these, like, we got to talk to of course we had Lori on the webcast, but like, we need to clarify some things. And it was 2 seconds of disbelief. It was like doubting Thomas, because instantly they had the building for sale for $39 million, and all these other pro-abortion groups are criticizing Planned Parenthood and all this stuff for closing it. But it is a money business, as you know.
Yeah.
They're not making money.
They're not. I don't see how they're. I don't see how they're going to be able to stay afloat. You know, in some of the larger areas and where they see a lot of. Obviously, they're trying to make up money where they can with the hormonal replacement therapies and things like that. But how do you make up that much money? You know, with what they've lost with the overturning of Roe.
And I think too, on top of that, when we've had the growth of 40 Days for Life, the demand is at an all-time high. And of course, it's always nice to toot our own horn. But from the worker perspective, does that increase the intensity? Like if all this is going on behind the scenes and then you have a 40 Days for Life campaign outside, does it add on to it? Does it not matter? Are they used to us? What do you think?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, Sean, because I think for some people, 40 Days for Life isn't really on their radar for some locations. And I think that's probably where we can be most effective. Because if you think about some of the Planned Parenthoods or abortion facilities that are kind of in the more, not as urban, metropolitan areas and more kind of rural, so to speak, I think that's where we can do a lot more harm to the abortion industry and start seeing some closures and seeing workers leave, because oftentimes those workers will get in, they'll work for Planned Parenthood or whomever, and when we're there, when we're present, they're more likely, in my opinion, they're more likely to, have a change of heart.
One of the many ways that 40 Days for Life prepared for post-Roe America and the overturning of Roe was launching 40 Days for Life 365 as part of 40 Days for Life University. And that is where we have peaceful vigils outside of abortion facilities every business hour that they are open throughout the year. So 40 Days for Life 365 is detrimental to the bottom line of an abortion facility, and that is headed up by no one else other than Heather Gardner, Heather the Great. And you have a lot of experience with this because you were in hostile Austin. You had 40 Days for Life 365 year-round at your locations. You made Austin abortion-free, and it wasn't easy.
Well, obviously, we still have a lot of work to do in Austin, but yes, many, many years the fight has been going and raging in Austin, and it is a very pro-abortion city, unfortunately.
It's good because leaders can't complain to you because you've endured it all, which makes you perfect for this role. But you've seen it and you've overcome it.
It was quite the switch from going from College Station to Austin. Like one facility, four staff members, leaders here, 4 facilities in Austin at the time. It's a lot, and in a very hostile environment. So, but that is not uncommon. We've got quite a few of our 365 locations that have hostile environments. So.
It's really great because, as I mentioned, it really does kill the bottom line. I mean, there's one thing to say, all right, they're out there for 40 days, but the freaks will be gone on day 40. Let's look at the calendar. We only have 3 more weeks or whatever. But when it's the Monday afterwards and the Tuesday after, and you do week after week, and it's like, oh no. I assume now most of the Planned Parenthood locations that have 40 Days for Life 365 are aware that they are a 365 location.
They may or may not be, it depends. What I love to tell and remind our 365 leaders is you really should try to be out on the sidewalk on day 41. It can be difficult because day 40 is definitely that finish line that we have a lot of times in our minds. and we might want to take a break for a few days. But if you could get at least a few people there in the morning, first thing on day 41, because that is the day that we've heard this from many former abortion workers. They're like waiting and excited because they're like, ha, they're going to be gone. And then they show up and you're still there. And they don't like that.
It cancels the 40 Days for Life is over party.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that they have. They're like, yeah, y'all are gone, you know. It does, though.
You guys having a party? What's going on?
Right. I like breakfast tacos. Yeah, it does also, you kind of raise the eyebrows of like, they're really committed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It
yeah.
helps that respect factor.
Yeah, and I think it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. We do this because abortions obviously continue after day 40. And,
Right.
and a lot of people know this, and if you have that desire to want to continue your vigil on the sidewalk, talk to me or talk to your headquarters person, because we have quite a few locations that some of them, they started and then like 2 or 3 campaigns, well, maybe a year later or 2 years later, they ended up graduating, I guess you could say, to 365. And others, they've been doing vigils for 10 years, and then they decide to continue on to 365. So,
And it's hard to do. You have to apply. Applications
Yes.
open in June for essentially the whole month of June. But it is hard. It's not for everybody, and it's very difficult. But man, it's worth it.
it is worth it. We see a significant increase in the number of saves. I know our wonderful leaders, Suzanne and Rachel and Marietta, always report, we see so many more lives saved since we've gone to 365.
Yeah.
And, you know, our fall and our spring campaigns are supposed to be that springboard to launch your 365 vigil. So when Sean says it's all business hours throughout the year, you don't have to go from spring vigil to now doing all business hours, but start with the one day abortion day if you can. And then if you have multiple abortion days at your site, you can keep building from there and try to cover those first until you get to. And if all of your business days are abortion days, which is really tragic but happens, you're working towards that to hopefully eventually get to where you have that full coverage.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's
Yeah.
the eating the elephant one bite at a time. And we take you through that A to Z of how to fill your vigil. And I think it's so daunting and overwhelming for people, but it's like, look, this is in a year, this is what it's gonna look like. It's not gonna happen in a week or a month or a couple of months. And I think it gives some relief. Unlike 40 Days for Life, which is like this sprint and it's crazy and then it just sort of ends of getting all your volunteers. The 365 is it trickles and filling the entire year. Do you have any Save Baby stories for us?
Yes, I'll start with a couple. Since we were just talking about Marietta, we got a report from them towards the end of the campaign that they had a man stop and say how grateful he was every time he drives by and sees them, because just a few years ago, his wife had gone in for an abortion, and she stopped and talked with the people outside on the sidewalk, and she changed her mind. So they have a 3-year-old now. And he said, it just does my heart good every time I see you guys out here, because this child's life is here because of you guys. So
That's awesome.
Beautiful. And then going along those lines, going over to Lansing, Michigan, we got a great report from Chris that, and this was actually right before the start of the spring campaign, another reason to try to go 365. They had a mom stop and tell them that she was there over 8 years ago to have an abortion. She had her 8-year-old son in the back. She said, I changed my mind because there were people outside praying for me. So they got that confirmation. She hadn't told them at the time, and so this was the first time they were hearing this, which I always like to remind people that as hard as this is to do this ministry, because we don't see the fruits of our labor, we're not owed the answers. We're not owed, the number of saves, but it's always a great time and cause for celebration when we do get those confirmations from the Lord. So,
and the Planned Parenthood workers saying that the no-show rate can go as high as 75% when we're out there. That's it. That's enough. And of course, we've been very fortunate. We've held a lot of babies. We've met, I've met a high school senior who was saved with the 40 Days for Life here in 2004. You get those confirmations. but we're not entitled to them. And if we don't get them, it sounds like a hypocrite me saying this because I've met a lot of saved babies, which is one of the greatest joys. But for a long time, I didn't. You you never question, well, is this worth it? But I love it when they come back and they say, 3 years ago, I didn't go in because you were here.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. It can be really rewarding. We hear about Milwaukee, Wisconsin a lot, and we're going to hear about them again. So they have, as far as we know right now, 20 lives that were saved just this spring outside the Milwaukee abortion facility. Now, this abortion facility actually moved locations. So they started out by moving from one location to the other at the beginning of the spring campaign. And I am quite certain the abortion workers thought, we're finally going to stick it to them because they're not going to be able to talk with these women and have easy access anymore. And that did not stop them. They quickly advanced over to the other location and just did their thing and talked to more women, and they continue to talk to women and reach out, and they're still saving lives. So praise God for that. We did have a really tragic, I'd say probably one of the hardest stories of the campaign, and that was that there was a confirmed report that a mother did die at one of the abortion facilities in Fort Collins, Colorado. And the prayer volunteers were there to witness when this woman was taken away on an ambulance. She was a 19-year-old mother. She was 22 weeks pregnant, and so she died from a botched abortion at this facility. And so this is all the more reason that we need to continue to be out there. We need to continue to go and speak out the truth on the sidewalks, because we know that in addition to the children that are dying, there are women's lives that are at risk. And even if they don't lose their life, which we pray they don't, that their heart, at least a piece of their heart is gone from that, and they have that lifetime of regret afterwards. And so we, of course, then pray for their healing. So pray for those people in Fort Collins, but they continue to go out there and witness on the sidewalk throughout the year. And then we had a really great report from Honolulu, Hawaii. Our leader was told actually by one of the abortion workers confirming a save, that somebody that they talked to ended up changing their mind and choosing life. So those are just...
That worker's not going to make it much longer.
And that
when you're on such good terms with them,
right,
and they're basically telling you saved a baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great position. We pray for that worker.
Whether it's an eye roll, like I guess
right,
I may as well admit it, or it's a hey, guess what?
Right. Either way, they shouldn't be telling us anything.
Right. Right.
And probably aren't allowed to.
Yeah. No. That's in their protocol
right,
to not talk with the
right,
anti-choice, religious zealot, bigot, protesters, all the names that they give us. So. And then, Sean, you actually were able to do a visit to Sarasota, right?
Yeah, great 365 campaign. I went out, we sent out the video of me interviewing Rich in front of the largest Planned Parenthood in the state of Florida. Florida has the heartbeat law, as you know, so big abortion pill battleground state. And so Rich asked me to come out and do an unplanned viewing, which we did a lot, obviously, when the movie came out, because the reason, I was like, it's a 5-year-old movie. He's like, but it had this revival. Mm-hmm. And we've seen it too. We saw it when it went on Prime a couple of years ago, but there's just a lot of people that haven't seen Unplanned, so the leaders are having these unplanned viewings. I think he had over 100 people.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of, so I introduced the movie, and then at the end took questions and did 99% of the movie is fact, and so I talked about some of the backstory and everything, and it was really, really a lot of fun, and I'm open to doing more of that. It's always exciting to get to go and do that. If it recruits volunteers, we can do it.
Yeah, leaders can do that as a kickoff event. You don't have to have us. You can definitely do that. We can help you with the logistics and the details, but it's a great opportunity to have as a kickoff event. Or maybe even a midpoint event. And the way that, if you're concerned like, but people won't show up because they've already seen it. Well, there's quite a few people that still haven't seen that movie, but also a way to advertise it is to tell those people, if you've seen the movie, come and bring a friend this time who has not seen the movie. And that's going to be kind of more of a motivation for those who have seen the film already to come back. And you can use it as multiple things. You can use it as a diaper drive. You can use it as a way to get fundraising for your local campaign, for the resources that you may need, brochures, all that kind of stuff. So it's got a lot of different opportunities. So really great.
It's an easy thing too to find a church willing to do it.
Yeah.
No matter what, evangelical churches, Catholic churches, I've done them in Methodist churches. Churches are very open to doing those. And so it's easy to find a venue. Everybody can come together. You can have food and all of that. So yeah, that was really, really neat. And you know, these 365 locations are so crucial because if we talked earlier, me and Steve, about the New York, and Ramona and I are talking about it also, the Manhattan closure. And if that place can close, I mean, you can't be confident enough that God will use your campaign to close that. With 13 years of 40 Days for Life outside that place in New York wasn't easy, as you know, and it was awful, and there was a lot of persecution. That just didn't compete, though, with the persistent prayer vigil. And so it's something really, really to focus on. And if you are currently a leader and you're thinking of doing 365, let us know so that we can, Heather can attack you and convince you that you can do it and that you can end abortion where you live. One thing we touched on earlier was one of the biggest victories in the history of 40 Days for Life, the closing of the flagship Planned Parenthood abortion facility in Manhattan, the one dedicated to Margaret Sanger, their racist founder. It was on Margaret Sanger Avenue before they had to cancel Margaret Sanger Avenue back in 2020. But that closing was huge, and we are going to talk to Dr. Haywood Robinson, former abortion provider, about that and your travels. You went a lot of places this spring.
A lot of places this spring, and I'm just blessed to say that our ministry continues to be blessed by God and growing. And the New York situation, well, what can you say? I've been there several times. Margaret Sanger Street, Avenue, Boulevard was there, and they had the internal issues with respect to race, etc., and eugenics, and they took her name off the street. However, they did not take her name off of the building. I guess that means she was only half the racist and eugenicist that she was. But it's very interesting how she's been able to fly under the cover, being openly racist, eugenicist in all of her writing, and in the mission of Planned Parenthood, which we know that Black women experience abortion at twice the rate of their white counterparts, and that is the vision of Margaret Sanger.
And that's the point of abortion. I mean, the only reason to support abortion, honestly, is eugenics. You want certain groups, peoples, kinds of people here, and you don't want other groups and other kinds of people here. It was the Bill Maher thing when he said, you know, abortion, people think it's murder, and it kind of is. I'm sorry, we have, 5 billion people, we won't miss you. We don't care, we need less people. And the honest folks will just say it's eugenics.
Well, that's what it is. I guess they look at it as somewhat like, since surgery is good, this is population surgery, right? We're just going to get rid of the cancerous part, the part that's overbreeding. Lots of the people in our country don't realize that at the turn of the century, the fertility rate among blacks and whites was, around about 10 or so, for sure above 8. And somewhere along the 1950s, there was some decision or whatever, or edict from the government that 2.1 children ought to do. Well, where did that come from? Clearly, we don't have a population problem. Anyone that's flown in a plane and looked out of the window will notice that most of the area is not occupied. The cities and our urban areas only make up a small percentage, and the capacity for us to make food and deal with energy is really not a problem. But we do know that there are people that believe that the population is actually too large right now, and we have to cull it down. But we're going to decide who the people are that we need to get rid of, and you know who that is. And that's the people with the power, the people with the assets. We've got to remember that when Margaret Sanger got all of her eugenics machine moving, she was working with the people who built America, the Vanderbilts, the Colgates, all of the big names that brought about the Industrial Revolution, and she had a relationship with these people. And it's that whole mindset, that whole instrument, that's what was exported to Germany through Europe for World War II, where 6 million Jews were killed because they were Jewish. And boy, isn't it amazing how history repeats itself, and now we see on our most elite campuses almost a genocidal atmosphere where Jewish students are actually terrorized and afraid to go to class. It's amazing.
An acceptance, an open acceptance of hating Jews, which I just never thought I would see in my lifetime. It's just unbelievable. But we definitely have that. We also have people like, it's just funny, like Elon Musk or Joe Rogan saying that we are in a demographic winter, which we are. Half the sociologists in the world believe we're underpopulated. And then you have the richest guy in the world saying that that's going to lead to our extinction. There's one demographer who said if every Italian woman had 10 babies today, it'd be a blip on the radar.
Right.
It wouldn't even, they are in such dire need of children. And so it's the opposite. I mean, you really can contracept and abort yourself out of existence, and we're certainly, headed towards that direction. But the New York thing, I want you also to talk a little bit about your travels, but something's happened, and this has been a post-Roe thing, but it got highlighted because Trump got elected, so then they rush the bill to protect babies who survive an abortion. That's the crime, is they've survived the attempt on their life. As a former abortion doctor, I've heard you give many presentations, and you talk about what abortion is and what it isn't. And it's graphic, and people will say, oh, yeah, Dr. Robinson, that was kind of graphic. And you're like, well, I did it, and it's not a fun thing. It's not a nice thing. Now, where it's graphic when we talk about dismembering the baby, now they can say, leave the baby on the table to die and to suffocate because we don't want him or her and they can't help themselves. And they can say that and pat themselves on the back and be sophisticated politicians?
And it's all about the incremental nature, what we talk about, the depersonalization, dehumanization. It's an incremental thing. Now, what they're talking about now, we would not have been able to say that 30 years ago. It's step by step. We say, well, an abortion is a safe thing you do in the privacy with your doctor and patient, and they don't want to really show you pictures. They don't show pictures to the woman about what an abortion looks like and what your baby's going to look like when we finish homogenizing it or cutting it up. But what has happened because of the progressive desensitization, which we see the same thing in media, it just doesn't make a blip on the radar. So you can show a person now a dead baby, you can show them a baby gasping for air and just wanting the simple resuscitative measures taken so that they can live, because they now have had their umbilical cord cut. They are a separate person, and you have people in our legislative bodies that say, no, do not give aid to that human being simply based on political reasons. Now we know, because we're believers, that this is not a political issue. This is a spiritual issue, and it shows the depravity that has fallen not only on the United States, but on our entire planet. And as I travel from city to city and different countries, we see how we've become progressively more desensitized to the reality. We have about 2,000 babies are killed every day in the United States. I happen to be speaking at our university here in College Station, Texas A&M. Little whoop from you. Well, and these were pre-medical students. These are sharp people. And I asked them the question, how many, I asked them how many abortions a day. Most of them knew about 1,000 or 2,000. I said, well, tell me, how many, what percentage of abortions on our planet does this represent in the United States? And there was only one person that answered, and they said, oh, about 48% in the United States. I said, are there any of them? We're talking about 30 4.0 type students. Any other answers? And there were no other answers. I said, what if I told you it was 1 to 2% of the abortions that are occurring on the planet Earth every day happen in the United States? What does that tell you? That means every day 200,000 babies are killed on our planet. Sometimes we tend to just want to look at our country. Think about that. Within a week, that's about 1.5 million babies. And that should tell you something, that we are desensitized to our own humanity. All of us have been preborn. We may not remember when we were preborn, but that's the reality of who we are. So we have created a class that shows the depravity that we have in this building right now, the now closed former Planned Parenthood killing facility. Just a few yards behind us are rooms where they kill 1,600 babies. We don't think about that as a tragedy that it was, that God had a purpose for each and every one of those children. So it's going to be a challenge for us to retain, or at least to gather again that certain humanity that we have for all children, born and preborn.
Well, don't you think the graphic nature of just saying, hey, you guys overturned Roe v. Wade, so now we want abortion through all 40 weeks, these politicians getting asked, when do we regulate abortion? And there's just silence, they won't answer it. Certainly Kamala running on celebrating abortion, which I guess if you're gonna win, that was the year to do it. First presidential election after Roe, it didn't work, it failed miserably. And just, if you take New York, I mean, the writing was on the wall. They stopped doing late-term abortions. I believe Lori said it was, who was on earlier, it was like last June, I think. And that was just like the first sign of, because sadly, you could go to that facility and, as we say, visibly pregnant, women going in, and they stopped that. They did it at 20 weeks. New York allows till 40. But the main Planned Parenthood in New York City is doing it at 20. I mean, obviously that's what we're here for in the pregnancy centers, it's a market-driven approach and changing their hearts and minds. But I think that just like the trans movement lacked discipline and said, everyone will allow dudes into little girls' locker rooms and you will submit to this, and everybody said, you're nuts, we're actually gonna start fixing some of this stuff. I think that that's what's happening with the pro-abortion folks in the post-Roe world. Is they're like, no, all through 40 weeks, and if the little punk survives, we're gonna leave him on the table. What do you think of that? And people are like, you're gone. And if you and I would have said that 20 years ago, we said, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna leave the babies on the table to die. They'd have said, you guys are nuts. No. You're nuts.
We've seen things, the late-term abortionists who died, I believe, a year or so ago, Dr. Carhart.
Yep.
He went so far, as you remember, having the special memorial services in his facility for the babies that he killed.
Yeah.
He had an entire package for the family that included killing the baby, then prepping it, kind of like a mortician, having a casket, and having clergy come in, all under one roof, all for one fee. Think about that for a moment.
Well, that speaks to what you said a minute ago, which is this is spiritual, because that's just satanic.
Yeah, that's satanic. I mean, imagine, so and we had in our practice before we retired, one of our patients had a diagnosis, I believe, of Downs of her child, and she went up to either it was Carhart or Dr. Tiller, and Tiller, I believe, helped train Carhart. And she actually told her about her experience on how she was there, and they had the baby visualized under ultrasound, and he took a long spinal needle, and they watched as the baby's heart was beating, and he took a needle, went into the side, the uterus, into the baby's heart, and injected the baby's heart with potassium chloride, which stopped the heartbeat. And the mother said, oh, and then the baby went to sleep. Do you see how we get perverted in the way we think? She didn't say, well, they put a needle in my baby's heart and we killed it. I paid for my baby to be killed. We live with a layer upon layer of lies where we actually have a medical ministry or profession that says abortion is medicine. Medicine has always been to improve the health of the individual. Abortion does not improve the health of a woman, and for sure does not improve the health of the baby, but yet we accept it. And if you keep repeating something enough times, you tend to believe it, whether it's a lie or not. And that's what we're living in, where we have physicians who have perpetrated the greatest betrayal on the public, in our community, to be the executioners for the death penalty of Roe v. Wade. And unfortunately, the overthrowing of that, it would have been nice that once the Dobbs decision came, that it had the effect that the Emancipation Proclamation may have had, but it didn't. And so we're living now in a time where we have to be ever more diligent in fighting at a time where the enemy is harder to fight because of the other thing we haven't talked about, which is the abortion pill, where the greater lie now is we'll just give you these prescriptions, you go home, you can handle this all on your own. And we send women home to go through an abortion many times all by themselves. They sit on the toilet and they see their child in the toilet and have to go through the trauma of what they have to do. Do I flush it? Do I do whatever? Because the people at Planned Parenthood don't tell them what to do or give them any measures with how to deal with the remains. All Planned Parenthood or the abortion facilities care about is getting their fee. And women are being damaged, and it's so easy now because all it requires is for someone with a medical license to sign a prescription, and a woman can have an abortion without any evaluation from a doctor, no ultrasound, no nothing, and that's what's happening now. So we've got to ramp our game up, and we've got to keep fighting.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about that with Matt too, with the abortion pill reversal and the abortion pills. And you said something that I think really connects to the viewer, and that is the repeating the lie over and over again. And we can do that for the truth as well. And that's really one of the things that we've seen with 40 Days for Life is people see it. Maybe it's there, for a year, 2 years, but now we have campaigns that have been going on 10, 15, 20 years, and people know that's where people go outside, and they know why we go outside because they do abortions there, and that's where you get the no-show rate of 75%. I want to put some of these pictures of the vigil signs on here because we have very few signs, and the reason is we keep our messaging very tight. We have tested messages that we've decided don't really work. We've tested messages that do work. You don't have to do this today. That sign has saved a lot of babies. Ask me about abortion pill reversal. And then, of course, our original, our go-to, pray to end abortion. Those signs, the consistency of that in saying something over and over and over again and being there on the sidewalks over and over and over again, does lead people to question abortion, question what they're doing, and offer alternatives, not just us saying, hey, don't do this, but being able to put them in touch with a pregnancy resource center and get them the help that they need. It's always good hearing from Haywood and getting his perspective on things as a former abortion provider. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
A lot of times we do these and we share all the great news, and people will say, well, what about the abortion pill? And it's a majority of all abortions now. Like, so these places are closing. Maybe they're just getting the pill. And we are uniquely positioned to address that and to solve that. And that's why we saw this campaign. 3 of the babies saved were through abortion pill reversal, because somebody was out maybe holding that sign that says, ask me about abortion pill reversal, or we now have the new one with the QR codes about abortion pill reversal. So we've never seen that many before. That's only going to increase. And then coming off of Dr. Haywood, we got a little bit more detail about some of the workers who left this time around. We've got a great story from the East Coast. Again, we never share specific locations to prevent reprisals, but the people had been out praying for this particular abortion worker to leave. Then they never saw her again. Maybe you wonder, where'd she go? Maybe she got a better offer. But it was a pregnancy center who came and said, hey, she came to us. She's out. She noticed you, how peaceful you were, how loving you were. Even though she never talked with you, it was merely seeing your witness that led her out of the abortion industry. So I like to close on that story because it shows, I think, the humanity of all of this, the humanity of the babies, the humanity of the moms, the humanity of the workers, and the humanity of just the presence out there on the streets and how effective it really can be when we stay the course. That's why we're built to win.
It really speaks what you just said to the approach of 40 Days for Life, that it is peaceful, that it is prayerful, that we are there offering alternatives, and that women take us up on it. It's so beautiful, and that's only possible if we are doing this with the heart of Christ. And that's what makes 40 Days for Life possible. Otherwise, we're just another group protesting or holding street activism. But this has to be missionary work in our own neighborhood, and that's why it's effective. That's why it's built to win, because it's built on the love, hope, and mercy of Jesus Christ. And I can't thank you enough for participating in 40 Days for Life. Please continue to keep us in prayer. We need prayer. We also need donations. We don't ask for money a lot throughout the year, but we're asking tonight. We have a matching challenge. A group of generous donors put forward this amount on your screen. Every dollar given will be matched dollar for dollar until Tuesday, May the 6th. And so we have a week to hit the match. And so please help us with this. This will go to training our leaders. We are spending more time and more money than ever before training our local leaders. We did a training recently in California. We had 99 volunteers, 90 of whom were new to 40 Days for Life. And so we have to pour more money into local leaders, local volunteers. So please give generously. You can give a one-time gift. You can give a monthly gift. Please give online. You can mail a check. Also, there's a form on the screen. You just click it. You can download that form. And as long as it's postmarked by May 6th, Tuesday, May 6th, it will go towards the match. And so this has also, on a practical level, been a very effective way for us to raise money so that we spend less time raising money and spend more time focused on our mission. And so these webcasts, please give generously because it allows us to focus more on our mission. And as we've mentioned many times tonight, our mission is at an all-time high demand. I'm very proud of our team. I'm very proud of our board for keeping up with the demand. We are struggling to do so. It's a good struggle. And so we do need your donations. We do need your financial support. So please give generously. If you give a monthly gift, by the way, it will be annualized and that amount will be doubled. If you give $10 a month, that's $120. It'll be $240 once it's matched. And so, but you give $100 a month, it'll be matched every month, $100. So it will be doubled dollar for dollar for the amount that you see on your screen through Tuesday, May the 6th. So please give and give generously. And as we see donations coming in, thank you very much. Steve, you want to close us in prayer?
Sure. Heavenly Father, we once again end where we began, which is with thanksgiving for the work that you have accomplished through all of these humble men and women across the country and around the world who have given of their time and are now giving of their treasure to save babies out of love for you and love for neighbors. So we ask you, please provide for the needs of this mission. Send us volunteers, send us leaders for the fall campaign, and please provide financially and call us to be generous in our support of this mission. We ask you to please hastily bring about the end of abortion in our country and in the entire world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And thank you for joining us on the Built to Win webcast. Please keep us in prayer. Be sure to share this. The recording will go out tomorrow. Be sure to share this with your friends. Share the donate link and let everybody know you can match your gift dollar for dollar through Tuesday, May the 6th. Thank you, Steve. And please continue to pray and to work to end abortion where you live, because if America can end abortion, the world will follow, as Mother Teresa famously said. Good night, and God bless you.